and tell Representative Reynolds to get that halo, close that window. We don't see that sun.
No, we're up on the Santita Jackson show, everybody. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the second hour of the Santita Jackson show. I've got a comedian in residence, someone who missed his calling, but we love him so much. Oh, gosh, Harris County Commissioner Jim Rodney Ellis from Texas. He can be with us for a little bit. We're going to have him open up and give us a report. He's someone of not just tremendous significance in Texas, but really nationally on the Democratic scene and quite frankly, internationally. He's someone who has really helped to usher us through Africa. He's been working with Reverend Jackson for more than 40 years. Oh, hallelujah. And there we go, Teal Hardeman, the violence interrupters. Brilliant organizer and voice in our community. WVON every Sunday at 6 a.m. Central Standard Time. Please check him out. Dr. David Gibbs, the author of The
Revolt of the Rich.
No. I was. That was a pregnant pause because I think that's what we're watching right now. A Revolt of the Rich, and it's absolutely revolting. But they keep fighting back. My father said slave masters never retire, and I think he's absolutely right. Texas State Representative Ron Reynolds, we got someone who mentored you into this political process. He's been mentoring all of us for a long time. Commissioner Rodney Ellis, what do you see? What is happening in Texas? You've got this Senate race that is mind-boggling. I saw Ted Cruz trying to raise money here in Chicago on the television like 2 weeks ago. That's what alerted me because I talked to Representative Reynolds. I said, "Wait a minute, what's going on in Texas? Don't you remember when I asked you, Ron?" I said, "What's happening in Texas?" My brother Jonathan, Congressman Jackson, was on his way to Texas to campaign for Congressman Colin Alred. He said, "No, he's got a real shot at this, taking out Ted Cruz." And we've got a race that's tighter than this. I'm throwing a lot at you, but I know you got to go. But that's why I want to hear. We need to hear from you. I haven't had you here in a minute. I've given you a bit of a break, but you're off of sabbatical now with me.
Santita, it's always good to be with you and see you in this new venue. So I had to hurry up and try to get shaved and cleaned up since you all will be able to look at me now. And so good to be with Representative Reynolds, who I spoke to late last night before I went to bed. And Tia, good to see you there. And look, the revolt of the rich. I'd like to get to that level where I have something to revolt on myself, you know. But look, in Texas, you think about what happened 4 years ago when we did so much, invested federal money to the extent we could in making it easy for people to vote. And then there was a reaction at the state level. You know, we had drive-through voting, 24-hour voting. We had it going. Record turnout 4 years ago. And that's why the Republican state legislature made changes. Representative Reynolds and others made a valiant effort, even broke the quorum. Ended up in Washington, D.C. for a couple of months trying to stop that dreadful anti-voting Jim Crow 2 legislation. But look, even with all of that, people are showing up in droves. I always borrow a line from Beto to give him credit. And this is pretty much the line. Texas is not a red state. It's a blue state that doesn't vote. And in part, we don't vote because they put so many hurdles in our way. The vice president is coming here. This is the first time a presidential candidate, Democrat or Republican nominee, has come into Houston, Harris County this close to an election. Last time it happened was Bill Clinton in the early 90s. You know, it's a blue county, but if we get our numbers up enough in Harris County, Fort Bend County, Representative Reynolds is 20 minutes away in Fort Bend County. Almost 5 million people in Harris County, 1.2, 1.4 million people in Fort Bend County, a state of 30 million people. We know some areas of the state are predictably red and will be red for a long time. But all of the urban areas, with the exception of Tarrant County, they now have 2 Democrats on that 5-person governing board, so it's making progress. But Bexar County, San Antonio, Travis County, Austin, Dallas County, the city of Dallas, Harris County, Houston, Fort Bend County, which in no way is considered a suburban county anymore, 1.2, 1.3 million people. That's massive. So look, Ted Cruz has good cause to be worried because we want to let him go to Cancun full time and relax and enjoy the sun when another storm comes our way. But look, unprecedented funding is coming to Colin already, about $68 million. The Senate Democratic Campaign Committee on National Level Submitted Investment. I'm assuming the vice president's coming for two reasons. One, obviously, to help Colin Alred. Number two, this is the perfect place to make the statement for women about being able to control their bodies because we're ground zero for the most right wing, outrageous restriction on a woman's right to make choices about her life and her health in the country. Last point I'll make is this is not a majority Anglo state, it's a majority minority state. Although African Americans are only 12%, you have the largest number of African Americans in the country in the state of Texas. One of the largest Hispanic populations in the country, a growing Asian American, South Asian population. So those are all of the ingredients to show that we have the ability to switch, and white women in particular who realize they've lost so much in terms of making choices about their bodies and bodies for women in general. So that's why Ted Cruz is wise to be trying to raise money anywhere it can. I assume he'll drag President Trump on back in here before the election, and that's good. That'll help stir up our base.
Well, well, will you? Are, are we seeing coalition politics? Are these communities that you've mentioned? Are they finding common cause in the presidential election, in the Senate election, and other elections?
It's always a challenge. I'd be less than honest with you if I didn't say that. It's common in any society to play those who have the least among us against each other. That's the oldest strategy in the world. And look, we have to resist it. African Americans will be worried about whatever the Hispanics get. Hispanics will be worried about whatever the African Americans get. South Asians and Asian Americans will be worried about what the other two groups get. The Anglo women will be worried about what others get. White men will feel intimidated. It's a big tent on the Democratic side. And if we were all just angry and all looked alike, we just have a common interest, just trying to keep our foot on somebody else's neck. But when you got a diverse tent in Cook County, you have the same challenges that we have. So it's part of growing. I tell people all the time, the initial gut reaction for most people is to want somebody who looks like them. Now I'm 70 years old. Maybe a decade ago, I was smart enough to realize I'm more interested in somebody who thinks like I do than who looks like I do. But that's a sign of maturity. I hope young people like Representative Reynolds come to that conclusion a hell of a lot quicker than I did. But at least I'm there now. And I preach that to people all the time. And I use that line that your dad used to, Reverend Jackson used to borrow that line from Billy Preston. I know you're not old enough to remember that. Nothing from nothing leaves nothing.
I remember. No, no, Representative Reynolds doesn't remember that song.
Yes.
I was a little girl, but I remember that song. And Tio, you might not remember it, but I do. It was big. It was a big hit.
I remember that. I remember that.
Something, but you gotta have something if you want to be with me. Come on now.
That's right.
Those cultural references. Commissioner Ellis, what do you see? Just really quickly before I pivot to you, Dr. Gibbs, because it's the presidential race is tighter than this. It appears that is the Colin Alred, Ted Cruz race. Is it tight as well? I mean, it just seems like all across the country races are tight. Commissioner Ellis, what do you think?
That race it shows that statistically, Colin Alred is within the margin that he can win. Ted Cruz is still ahead, and he is sounding all of the alarms, and he's feeding all of the red meat. I mentioned to a reporter the other day, one of the greatest assets for Colin Alred is the fact that he's running against Ted Cruz. Now, look, to win a statewide race as a Democrat in Texas, you can't have Reverend Jesse Jackson's fire and brimstone or Representative Ron Reynolds. Colin is a mild-mannered, decent human being, someone raised by a mother without a father in the home. You know, he had challenges, played professional football in the pros. And unlike the comment that was made about one presidential candidate playing football too much without his helmet on, I won't say who, Colin Alred was laying on the field, had an important game with a concussion, and he said that's when the light went off, and he said, there must be a better way to make a living. And he went to law school at Berkeley. I mean, extremely, Baylor and Berkeley, an extremely intelligent human being, worked in the Obama administration. I think he has that right temperament. Representative Reynolds, who chaired the Black Caucus, and I were talking about this a couple of weeks ago, and he was saying, you know, if we could get some of that fire and brimstone in him, I said, well, Ron, I don't think if you or I were running for statewide office in Texas right now, we've tried to find brimstone. It'd be nice if you could roll in Ann Richards, Ron Kirk, Lloyd Benson, Wendy Davis, Beto O'Rourke, all in one person. But in this age of transparency, in a big state like this, you can't say one thing in San Angelo and say another thing in Houston, because then you'll be perceived as less than authentic. So Colin Alred, you know, a serious individual while he was in Congress, gave up a safe seat. He could have kept his seat in Congress, as Beto O'Rourke could have. So it's a different dynamic. He's building off of the strides that Beto made, by the way. But he's not, you know, Beto had sort of that kind of Bobby Kennedy kind of rhetoric to him and the Bobby Kennedy look. Colin Alred is a mild-mannered, I'd say, Ron, Representative Reynolds, more in that Lloyd Benson mode.
Okay.
Until Benson had that line on Quail, what was it?
You know, John.
Senator, you know Jack Kennedy. I knew him. He was a friend of mine. You know,
and he was a Southern genteel gentleman.
Yeah, and he was a moderate.
Yes,
on issues that matter, we could bank on Lloyd Benson, but he was and if you want to win as a Democrat statewide in Texas right now, you cannot be the fire and bring. You can't have the record that Representative Reynolds has, or the record that I have, if you want to win statewide. And you can make a point statewide. And at some point that will happen, you know.
Okay. Well, you know, Dr. David Gibbs, brilliant historian from the University of Arizona, is always saying things, Commissioner Ellis said, makes people go, huh? But it's, you know, but the Revolt of the Rich, you got to get the book. It's not huh as in, oh no. It's huh as in he just gives us data. And it's like, you know, I mean, it's like all scientists, you know, it's like you enter this into the equation, the equal sign is an equalizer. This is what you get. So what do you see? I mean, because now the races are tighter than this. Yeah. We had the town hall meeting last night, filled with people, populated, but with an audience of undecided people, some of whom said, okay, I think I can maybe give you my vote. Other people said, I'm still not decided.
One of the things you're seeing is a shift on the issue of social class and turnout. The Democrats had traditionally had more support among people with lower educations and lower incomes. Disproportionately, of course, people of color, but also working class whites to some degree, at least. And, you know, people with high incomes and high educations tended to vote Republican. There really hasn't been a shift in that. You know, I've been reading Rui Teixeira, who's a pollster at Center for American Progress, and he's very good with the data, and he convincingly documents that there has been a reversal, really. And during the Trump years, really before the Trump years, but particularly during the Trump years, you've had increasingly people of the sort of, you know, lower levels of education and income voting Republican, and particularly for Trump. And astonishingly, this is increasingly becoming, to some degree, it's reflected also in even people of color, particularly among Hispanics. Again, I'm from Arizona. By far the biggest voting bloc here is Mexican American. And you are seeing most still vote Democratic, but a lot of them vote Republican. And they're not a predictable group. You know, you might think that they feel unanimously in favor of open borders. And that's not the case. I was surprised myself to see this. And a lot of, I think, the sort of populist rhetoric, and again, Trump is his policies, as we've seen, favor the rich. They're very traditional Republican policies in a lot of ways, but his rhetoric is populist. He's a man of the people. Kind of ironic for somebody as rich as he is, but still, that's how he talks, and with some effectiveness. And the Democrats do not seem that even now are not that skilled in countering this. And the data still show, as I've seen it, that the people with lower incomes are tending towards the Republicans. This is very significant for turnout because, generally speaking, in past elections, throughout my life up until recently, high turnout favored Democrats. The Republicans wanted to repress the vote, partly because when you repress the vote, you repress people with low educational levels who mostly vote Democratic. Now, the demographics have changed, but the Republicans still try to repress the vote, is my impression. They want low turnout, I think partly out of habit, partly out of, it must be said, the biggest Democratic group remains African Americans. Now, there's probably less Democratic than they've been in a while, but still overwhelmingly Democratic. And there's definitely been some Republican efforts to repress the African American vote. At least that's my sense of things. I would be surprised if they haven't done that this year, just because they've done it in so many years in the past. So I think that in the end, we'll probably still see these repressive measures aimed at repressing the vote. Again, even though people of low educational levels are voting Republican this time around, the repression is still there by the Republican Party. And, we'll see how that plays out in the election. We'll see how the public should be really maybe more outraged than they are about this, but maybe people have gotten used to it. The idea that there's efforts to repress the vote. In any case, the election remains extremely tight. We've all heard about, Alred versus Cruz. It's remarkable that a Democrat is coming this close to unseating a Republican in Texas.
Wait a minute, and a black one at that.
Very definitely. Oh yes, and a former Confederate state, no less.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that plays out. It does suggest basically that this is an election, this is an era when the old rules don't necessarily apply like they used to.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like we're in some kind of a realignment, a very painful realignment going on right now between the two parties in politics in general, the very definition of what it means to be a liberal and conservative. It feels almost like anything can happen. But in terms of the race, of course, it's almost dead even. Again, I personally think probably Trump has some edge, but either side could win. And in Texas, it seems, Alred versus Cruz, it's pretty close to a toss-up, is my impression.
And Candace Matthews, our dear friend, Representative Reynolds, is saying, we love her. Fake, she's going to expose some folks. She said Colin has what it takes to win. Lying Ted, gotta go. A lot of people in California, according to Robert Williams, that are originally from Texas, Louisiana and Texas, are returning to Texas. That's true. But Black folks, it's a reverse migration. We're really Southern refugees up north for the most part. Many of us have families. We chased opportunity or we were chased out of the South. Dr. Gibbs, it's just, my father could not have grown in a Jim Crow South Carolina the way he was able to grow in Chicago. That's a fact. And, it is what it is. And yet there's so much about the Southern experience that he wishes that we had. He says, he said, if I have one regret about you all, I wish you could have been raised in a smaller town, in a Southern town, where, things were just much simpler, church, school, and home, your neighborhood, all those things really, really matter. What are you seeing? What are you hearing as you listen on the radio, T.O. Hardiman, as you talk to people? Because I heard Maxine Waters say last night she had a wonderful fundraiser. I love Auntie Maxine. I told her I'm a Maxi-crat, and I am. Ride or die. She said, don't listen to the media talk about this separation between Black men and Black women, because we're not going to let our homes be broken up over this. And whatever the differences are, they're not really that big. And husbands and wives, look, my parents have been together 64 years. They've been married 63.
Yeah.
They don't agree on everything, and they keep it moving. It's just, it's not a headline. It is what it is.
Well, Santita, what I'm hearing, like right now, according to a CNN poll, about 18 million people voted early so far this year. In the state of Nevada and in the state of North Carolina, more Republicans have pulled ballots so far to date. And in Georgia, as you know, about 70% of the people will vote before the election. That's what they predict in the state of Georgia. About 55% women have already voted early, 45% men, right? So, that can go either way. So what I'm hearing on the ground level, now this might sound kind of strange. I'm just putting it out there as a scenario. The difference between Barack Obama and Kamala Harris would be, now this might sound strange, Santita, but I'm a risk taker. Now Barack was African, and his mother was Caucasian, right? I'm just putting it out there, scenario. Now Kamala Harris is Asian and Jamaican. In the Black community, that plays out a little different when it comes down to, don't get me wrong, some of the polls are suggesting that people are underestimating Mrs. Harris's reach out there. I want to put that out there. But in the Black community, that may play out a different way, the dynamics of her, her heritage to a degree. Not because she's a woman. I'm talking about what I'm hearing on the ground level, a lot of African American people saying that she's not really, African American per se. I'm just talking about per se.
That doesn't mean, because I think we have to explain, because Jamaica's not a race, it's a place. The presumption is that you are Black. No, I just not you, but to the broader community. The presumption is that because she's Jamaican, she is part Black. And quite frankly, I went to college. I saw her walk across campus. She looked like a Black person to me. And, that's just because Black folks have come in all kinds of iterations. It was like I grabbed you a picture of my grandmother. I showed you one grandmother yesterday. She's over here. My father's mother is over there in terms of their look. That ain't nothing. That having been said, there's something called, many people might not be familiar with the term foundational Black Americans.
Exactly.
And after Obama, Black people now want to know, wait. Representative Reynolds, Dr. Gibbs, where are you from?
That's the point I'm making, Santita.
Oh no, I'm trying to lead. I'm trying to give people some background so you can make that point, because
that's right.
That's a real thing, right?
Yes, it's definitely real, and that's what I'm hearing from the ground level here in Cook County anyway. But I believe she's going to do very well in the state of Illinois.
What are you hearing about that?
What I'm hearing is that some people in the African American community are not completely sold to Mrs. Harris based on that, what we're just talking about now, as far as her origin, where she comes from. Okay. You have the Asian part, then you have, like say, the Jamaican is not a race, like she's African American to some people she's not. I'm hearing that all over the place. That doesn't mean they're not going to vote for her.
Black.
Right. It does not mean they're not going to vote for her, but there's not this surge like it was for Barack Obama for whatever the reason may be. Now, the thing is, 150 million people voted in the last presidential election, right? What this race is going to come down to, whoever's going to win this race, they're going to have to tap into a new base of voters, so to speak, right? We know former President Trump got 76 million votes during the last election, and then Biden got like 81 million. So what it's going to come down, Trump is going to have to really tap into a new voter base to bring them numbers up to where he can, put it like this. It may end up being 160 million people come out and vote. In order to win, Trump is going to have to get 83 million votes. Mm-hmm. And the same with Kamala Harris may have to get around 85 million votes, right? If you get another 10 million people to come out and vote, that's a big if you get another 10 million, because the way it's looking right now, it's a dead heat, pretty much. But Kamala still has the edge with a lot of different polls.
Is there enough enthusiasm to boost the voting, T.O.? What do you think?
Well, I don't believe there's enough enthusiasm right now. I mean, the candidates are doing the best they can. I see them traveling all over the place. But what's going on is that there's a certain lethargic type of mindset with some of the voters. For whatever reason it might be, people are not so excited like they were when Barack Obama was running for president, for whatever reason. I'm not saying Mrs. Harris cannot make it happen whereas Hillary Clinton should step up a little bit for Mrs. Harris. I believe.
What about Michelle?
Michelle should step up as well. Both of those ladies.
There's no one more popular. And her speech at the convention was perfection.
You're right.
And so I'm like, the people are still talking about it. It was 3 months ago?
Yeah, 3 months ago.
It's like, to me, I'm like, she is the most popular figure, quite frankly, in
Right.
American politics.
If she would come out and really stand side by side with Mrs. Harris all over the
That's what
place
she
during the last,
needs.
right before the election, then Hillary Clinton comes out to make some statements, in the public and stand beside Mrs. Harris. She may better win this race. She may better pull it off, right?
Yeah.
That's not happening for whatever reason right now. But that's what I mean, Santita, when it comes down to the groundswell within the African American community. And then African American men are like in between with Mrs. Harris right now, but I think they're going to come over as well. I believe a lot of African American men are going to swing back her way for, that's what I'm hearing a little bit.
She has 80% of black men anyway. I mean,
That's
so
what
I
I'm
mean,
talking about.
so I'm like, all this talk about her not having black male support, overwhelmingly, that is untrue.
In order for her
Now,
to win, she's going to need 90% of the African American
right.
vote in order for her to win this election, period. Hands down. Okay.
Yeah, and you're right. A brilliant political analysis, and that is absolutely true.
Yeah.
I'm, wondering if she can actually push those numbers. Representative Reynolds.
Yeah, I mean, I think all the comments have been spot on. I think you're right, Santita. If Michelle gets out there on the stump, it's game over. I mean, she is the most popular figure with the credibility. She brings street cred, enthusiasm, excitement, and I think the plan is to roll her out more down the home stretch. We see
We're in the
Obama.
home stretch. Wait a minute, Representative.
Yeah.
Come on, this is it. We don't have 2 weeks now,
Right.
and you
Well, this
got
is
all
what
these
I.
votes that are just hanging out here. Now, according to these figures, TO actually now the numbers are up to 24 million.
Oh yeah,
Have voted already. More than 1 million people have voted in North Carolina, Dr. Gibbs, even with the hurdles that they face after the hurricanes. I mean, people are voting. They're voting in record numbers in Georgia.
Trump won North Carolina.
And they have been pushing.
Yeah.
Representative Reynolds, Dr. Gibbs, T.O. Hardeman, Republicans have been pushing early voting, which is
that's right. That's a switch. That's a change.
And the Democrats are not pushing souls to the polls. I mean, that was something Reverend did. I mean, and when Reverend was out there, Democrats were winning, quite frankly.
That's right.
So I mean,
so I think that you're right that there is some enthusiasm lag that Kamala needs to bring, and I think Michelle helps her bring that. I mean, she's rolling out. You saw Usher, Eminem. Try to bring out some celebrities to give her that push. I wouldn't be surprised to see like a Taylor Swift. I know they're trying to get Beyonce. In fact, tomorrow she's going to be in Houston, as Commissioner Ellis said, and she's having Beyonce's mom, Tina Knowles, at the rally in Houston. And so there's a lot of excitement in Houston to see the vice president tomorrow. I'll be there. Looking forward to that. But you're right that there needs to be more energy. This is going to be an extremely close race. It's going to be a nail biter for those swing states. The popular vote, I'm sure Harris has get it, but in terms of the electoral college, it's going to be tough in Georgia, North Carolina, Pennsylvania. Those states are going to be extremely razor thin where every vote counts. So there is. And you're right, black men, I mean, outside of black women, are the most reliable vote for Kamala Harris right now. She just needs that number to be above, 80%. She needs that number to go up.
In the 90s.
Correct.
Yeah. But, Dr. Gibbs, before you go, let me ask you this. What about it? Because there is an enthusiasm gap. Do you think that Michelle Obama could help Kamala Harris? And what is the pushback on her? I mean, what do you think?
The Obamas generally have been politically effective. Obama himself, Barack Obama, really does stand out as being sort of verbally very graceful and physically graceful. He, generally speaking, politicians are exceptionally scripted, and there's a public negative reaction to that. I'm sorry to say, Harris does have that image of being somewhat scripted, overly scripted, perhaps. One thing about Obama is he was able to follow a script, but do it with a certain grace and style that very few people are capable of. And, Michelle Obama, I think, benefits from the fact that she herself obviously has developed some of her husband's style and also the fact that she hasn't really been in politics, she's not a political figure really, she hasn't held any official position, makes her seem more nonpartisan, and people like that. She seems like a, again, I don't know her personally, so I can't really comment, but she gives the image of being not only a capable person, but an empathetic person, and people respond to that very positively. Even I suspect even people who are voting for Trump respond to that. But I think she will be an effective surrogate, as will her husband, Barack, as I said. I think somebody will not be an effective surrogate, and I think this is a very big tactical error by Harris, and I'm astonished she's making it, is Liz Cheney, okay? I teach in southern Arizona, where we have a very heavy military presence. A lot of military and ex-military personnel have been in my classes, and I can tell you that they are very alienated by the war on terror. Even those who didn't serve in it have a very negative view of it in many cases. It's well known in the military the damage this caused the morale in the military, the suicides, the physical damage, the brain damage, the family disruption this caused has been enormous. And, it is associated very heavily personally with the Cheney family, and for good reason. And so it is very astonishing to me that, the Democrats would want to roll her out like this. Are people forgetting that when Richard Cheney, her father, left office, he was one of the most unpopular figures in U.S. politics? Liz Cheney herself lost her own congressional seat in Wyoming by an enormous margin. And
say that. No, say that one more time.
Well, Liz Cheney had been a congresswoman for many years in Wyoming. She was one of the most distinguished families in Wyoming's history. And, recently she lost the Republican nomination for that seat, and she lost the seat. And she lost it by a huge margin, underscoring she and her father are deeply unpopular in the country. And even in Wyoming, where they come from, they're deeply unpopular.
Wait. So how is she a heroine? Ron, Tio, how have we made this? The Democrats have elevated her. They've deified her.
Yes.
And she's the savior of the party. I'm like, wait a minute. If you want to talk about vote theft.
That's right.
Bush and Cheney, and many people felt that Cheney was the power behind the throne. Stop it, y'all. Let's keep it one. Here, I keep it 100. They stole the election.
That's right.
They did.
Yes, I remember.
I mean, they put us in a war that was not only deeply unpopular, it was also immoral. We killed more than 1 million Iraqis inside of a year.
That's right.
We're deeply unpopular in that part of the world because we've killed millions of people. And many people, and these people, the Cheney family directly benefited financially from the war.
That's
Halliburton was a direct beneficiary. Come on, you guys. I'm like, okay, if she needs to do an appearance with you, I get it. This is politics. We all politique. I got it. But you need Michelle Obama out with you.
That's right.
Okay, she's popular with white women, with black women, with all women for a whole lot of reasons. It's a Rorschach test. A lot of people read a lot into her. Some of it's true, some of it isn't true, but it is what it is. She's extremely popular. Dr. Gibbs, to have Liz Cheney out there, I'm with you. I am befuddled, perplexed. I'm not bamboozled. I'm not hoodwinked. I'm not running amok. I'm not led astray. Something about this is off here. And that calculation is so off to me. I'm wondering if it's helping her to lose votes. I mean, because just like I think President Obama needs to kind of be moved over here to the side, because I don't think that white America understands how deeply offensive his remarks were with black men. And to me, as a black woman, to see him wagging his finger at black men was like, wait, stop. Because I got a daddy, I got brothers, I've got friends. Don't. You need Michelle out here. And Hillary, because we've looked at her as the president in exile. Now, so they're bringing the wrong people out here, Dr. Gibbs. And she is like, if she's this close, that means she's slightly behind. Because people who support Trump don't tell you they're supporting him. They keep it private. They just say, you know what? I just heard several people on C-SPAN this morning say, I'm in a Republican area. I'm in a blue state. I don't even want to talk about it. But I'm gonna vote the way I'm gonna vote. Dr. Gibbs.
Yeah, I think that I agree with everything you said. Obviously, I suppose I'd add one more point that the enormous enthusiasm you're seeing for the Cheney family also raises questions in my mind as to whether or not it's more than just sort of electoral politics, and whether or not there's now a certain admiration of the Democratic Party for the foreign policy of the Cheney family. One of the top figures in the Biden State Department was Victoria Nuland, who had been the national security advisor to Richard Cheney during the War on Terror. And, a major issue now, and I think rightly so, for second to the economy, I think the economy is number one, but I think a second one is that there's a lot of disorder in the world. And there's a tremendous amount of insecurity, more insecurity than we've seen in many decades. And a lot of it is being caused by the United States, both in terms of this extraordinary unreserved backing of Israel, which has been hugely disruptive in killing enormous numbers of innocent people, first in Gaza, now in Lebanon, but also in Ukraine. I've studied that very carefully, and I do think this was an avoidable war that the Biden administration chose not to avoid. I think it reflected something of the Cheney foreign policy attitude now in the Democratic Party, and the close association on the stump with Liz Cheney has me very worried as to what that means in terms of U.S. foreign policy. No, I don't think Trump would be any better in all sorts of obvious ways. Certainly with Israel, he would back Israel to the hilt. He said so, and I believe him. But it does bother me that the Democratic Party has so much adopted much of the former Republican attitude about foreign policy, a very warlike attitude that, I think has been threatening to security, but I think also may cost them the election, because I think the public is getting tired of these things. And the public, I think, does not like the look of insecurity. But in any case, I do have to go. And
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks.
It's been a pleasure to be on with all of you, and have a great day. Bye-bye.
Blessings to you. Blessings to you.
Thank you. Bye.
Representative Ron Reynolds, I need you to move to the left a little bit. There, that's it. Perfect. Don't move it. I mean, given all that we're seeing, because you're campaigning with people. I mean, T.O. Hardiman on WVON every Sunday at 6 a.m. Central Standard Time. Please check him out. Give him your support. He needs it, and he deserves it. Representative Reynolds, you're out here campaigning. I mean, and you're campaigning in, and T.O., I need you to move to the right, just a little bit. To the right. That's it. Don't move. That's it. A little bit more. Just a little bit more.
A little bit more, yeah, to the right.
There you go. To the right.
To
your right.
That's what I'm doing. To the right. Let me. Oh yeah, I see.
To my right.
I got it.
Yeah. Flip
there
it.
We go.
Just a little bit more. A little bit more. A little bit more.
Right. A little bit more.
There you go. That's it.
All right.
Representative Reynolds, you're out here campaigning. You're seeing what is working, and what is needed out here. I mean, what can help to do? I mean, do we? Because it seems to me we need some kind of a game changer kind of moment. Maybe it's not, something that would, that looks like the second coming, but you need something that's going to move the needle, because the needle's stuck. I think we can agree.
Yes.
These numbers have not moved for Kamala Harris, because I'm interested in her numbers.
Right.
Quite frankly, but I'm also interested in Trump's numbers, because I know Trump's numbers. He continues to. The more people beat him down, Dwight McKee, we can't wait to get him back. He said he'll be back after the election, everybody. Because, he has been recuperating. We're thanking God for that. And I called him. I said, what do you see? He said, you always have to do, because I said, I'm watching Trump's numbers grew so much, Representative Reynolds. I mean, his own numbers. While Biden, people were reacting to Trump grew 12, 13 million votes. That's a lot. That's a lot of support to gather in a presidency. I mean, that's right. A lot. I mean, I don't see him as some weak figure. He represents a lot of things to a lot of people. And I think we have to be respectful of that and understand it. So you know how to campaign. I don't think Liz Cheney's the answer. I think she's an answer for a segment of people. I'll grant them that. But they're making her the answer, and they're not the answer for Kamala Harris and the people she needs to get. You're going to see the answer down in Texas.
Well, you know what, Santita, just want to say this quickly here.
Of course.
When Liz Cheney's name is brought up, automatically they think about her husband, right? And they think about Halliburton. They think
You mean
about
her father?
yeah,
Right.
yeah, her father, my fault. Yeah, they think about the Halliburton experience and no weapons of mass destruction. That's going to always be around their names, you know, the former President Bush and all that stuff. But I want to say this: what the Republicans are doing, they're making a good argument in regards when it comes to the Black community. Have Democrats really delivered for the Black community? There's a big argument. That's what a lot of people are saying. So when Barack Obama was out there speaking to everybody, people saying, why would we listen to Barack Obama? He did not deliver anything for the African-American community. That's out there. I'm just being honest with you. That's everywhere you go. About 80% of African-American people feel that way. As far as people I'm in conversations with, right? So when you just talked about
but they don't say it publicly. You're saying that this is
yeah,
very quietly how people.
some people say it publicly. Now you've had a lot of people that are on these blogs. They're talking about it everywhere. So when Barack Obama, he was probably not the message wasn't right. He's a good messenger, but the message was not right when it comes to Black men, like he reprimanding Black men, right, for their lack of support. People see, let's take Mrs. Harris out the equation for a second. There's a perception, Rep. Reynolds, that the Democrats have not delivered for the Black community overall. So when you paint that broad stroke picture there, you look at Baltimore, you look at Memphis, you look at St. Louis, look at Chicago, you look at different cities across the United States, New Orleans, we don't have a sense what we feel the Democrats have delivered. That may be true or false, but that's the sentiments with some people, a lot of people, actually. People are going to vote for Mrs. Harris on the strength that she's a woman, number one, on the strength that she appears, you know, she has some good leadership qualities as well. So we're not going to take nothing from her. But Donald Trump, you just said it, Santita, he's picking up about 10 to 12, 13 million more voter base. And that might be the edge he's going to need to actually pull the victory off. You see?
And you know what, Tio? Yeah. People don't say that they're supporting him. They just go on.
They just do it. Yeah, they just support him anyway.
Because they've turned him, Tio Hardeman and Representative Ron Reynolds, they've turned him into this pariah, right?
Yeah.
And so, you know, he's like the third rail. And and if you say you're supporting him, it's like waving a flag. People just used to say that about my father years ago. He would incite, not just excite, but incite so much feeling that people would say, you know what, come on, really? So, I mean, Representative Reynolds, just help. Look, you both of you need to help me understand what is needed here, Representative Reynolds. What is needed in the campaign? Because something ain't. What I'm not going to talk about what ain't. I'm going to talk about what is. What is needed to move things along?
Well, I think you're right, spot on. If Michelle Obama is needed, that's critical and crucial. She also needs more street cred from brothers like, you know, Tio, like people that are trusted messengers that are saying that, hey, she is for us and we're for her. I think there needs to be you know, some fresh surrogates, some people with some street cred in local communities that can inject some real momentum, because that's something that she needs desperately right now while early voting is taking place. The polls are open now. So there is no waiting on November the 5th when people are casting votes right now. So there needs to be, here's the other thing, Santita, they raised I wanted to say something else, but a whole bunch of money, right? A pile of money.
Thank you.
Like, you know,
thank you for letting me stay on the air.
Yeah. They're raising a whole lot of money, but I don't see the money really circulating in the hood. I don't see the money circulating where it gets to the people that can get the message out. I see it to traditional consultants and TV. And a lot of these people ain't watching TV. They're not watching the commercials. They're not resonated by the commercials. So the money needs to be on the streets. There needs to be some street teams, some grassroots teams, and the people I'm talking to that know how to do it, they aren't even contacting them. So my advice,
to your point, no, stay right there. Stay right there.
Yeah.
I want you to give us your advice, but I want you to pick up on this before I forget. To your point, Republicans put money out there in these streets. They do.
Yes.
If you need to get them on your radio show or TV show, they are accessible. If I reached out, if if President Trump even thought that I was willing to interview him, you know what? He would do it, T.O.
Definitely.
Oh,
Representative
yeah,
Reynolds. He'd
he
be like,
would.
you know
He
what? I'm
would.
all in. Well, first of all, he knows, and you make agreements when you interview people. But he knows, number one, I'm not going to attack him, but I'm going to ask some questions that are piercing. But he wants to reach people. And one thing the man has shown you is that he ain't afraid to go in a room. And on a almost primal level, all people, but Black people in particular, Representative Reynolds, appreciate that. They respect that. They're like, you know what? He was there.
That's right. I agree. Yeah, definitely.
And
So,
you know, and she's got to throw herself into some of these spaces where you can't say that I'm speaking. You got to say, you know what? I hear you, and just take that hit, Ron.
that's right. Absolutely. No. I totally agree. And like I said, with the amount of resources they have raised, there is no excuse. She raised over $1 billion. There's no excuse for the money not to be able to circulate within the communities, particularly underserved communities, communities of color, where she needs a higher turnout. That is what is missing. That is what I've been challenging them to do, is to reinvest those resources so that you can go where those low propensity voters are and bring them out. That will be the difference maker. That's the game changer right there.
I concur, Santita, and based on the fact, take a look at these numbers here. Nearly 80 million Americans, or about 1/3 of the total U.S. population, are living with some kind of record, or whatever the case may be. I'm talking about ex-felons now.
Mm-hmm.
And what Reynolds was talking about is he's right on point, because I believe Mrs. Hayes should set up a campaign right now so she can go right into the deeper crevices and the cracks of the communities out here and talk to that voter base. Like for example, I put myself out there. If she was to walk Chicago with me, that would give us some credibility nationwide, because I have a nationwide base with brothers from the streets, ex-offender population, and community activist population, you name it. Just walking with me would help her out tremendously. I'm not just saying that to get her to come, you know what I mean? I'm just putting it out there. Because
No. I can affirm that for you. I'm from Chicago.
Yeah.
I've known you a long time, Tito.
Yeah. I'm a credible messenger. Yeah.
I know if I have had two brothers go to Congress.
Yes.
And if there was no street love for them, they would not have gotten in. I don't care who your daddy is.
There you go. Same with Congressman Danny Davis. That's one of my good friends. Yeah, okay. Congress Davis.
I mean,
but the point I'm making, though, Santita,
I want you to emphasize that point, because I don't think that people really get that, which is when Representative Reynolds says, wait a minute, y'all, because he's going to talk. He's part of the Democratic establishment.
Right.
They're beating him up, but he's part of it. And I'm glad you're there. He's saying, you guys, this is the point that you're missing. You need to know T.O.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm in Texas, but you know what? Now radio can be heard everywhere. This brother has an audience with people. If she walks down these streets with him, that's going to mean a whole lot. It's going to mean a lot to brothers who had been and sisters who had been in jail. And I don't mean just black and white. I don't just mean black people. I mean folks. When my brother was about to go to prison, do you know how many white people walked up to me in the airport and told me that they just come out of jail?
Exactly.
One guy who was one of the TSA agents followed me down the hall. He said, Miss Jackson, you don't know me, but I was in prison, and I want your brother to know he's going to be all right. And if he comes back, he said, no, when he comes back, I'm going to vote for him.
Wow.
I said, he said, no, because I need it. He said, I need him to come back because you can. Yeah. That's where Liz Cheney, okay, you have her. I get it. You need everybody. I'm not telling her to throw anybody overboard. But T.O. and Representative Reynolds, I'm saying, hold on, honey. You got to have these folks who the Democrats the establishment will tell you don't need them. I'm like, sweetie, yeah, you do.
Exactly. Yeah. She needs them bad. She needs that that demographic, okay? Without a doubt. And I'm telling you, you're talking about 3, 4, 5, 10 million votes right there, Representative Reynolds.
That's right.
There. Right. It's more than that, but the votes are available for her if she has the right message to that particular audience.
Where she's getting a hit, because she's taking the hit on incarceration, on her record
That's
have
right.
a
You
prosecutor.
could flip that.
You know what she can do? She can organize a restorative justice roundtable with guys like me, and I can bring out on a national level, maybe around 50 guys and some women that have been incarcerated for her to talk about restorative justice, repairing harm. I think that would be great for her right now with that ex-offender population. It would go a
But you know
long way
what?
for her.
Let me tell you, you know what? Maybe we just need to do it anyway, because maybe we need to take a page from Reverend's notebook. Okay, I know it would mean a lot to have her there, but to have Ron Reynolds and some other people there,
Ron would be great.
maybe we should just go on and organize that anyway.
Yeah.
So and then you send it to her and say, hey, wait a minute, because I know some of her people. Now this is what they're saying. Now, can she come in, kumbaya? No. Because the people who had the party are not as smart as you think they are.
Sure ain't.
You know, they're not.
Santita, you better say that again.
They're not as smart as you think they are. And I remember sitting in more than one meeting with my father, who said to them, you know, you all are just some smart ASSED white boys.
Mm-hmm.
I came from, and I remember this one meeting, we were in Boston. I'll never forget it. He said, I have worked harder. I have climbed higher mountains. I've come from farther behind than any of you. I'm smarter than you all day long. For my father to go there, he had it. He said, I ran for president and I beat everybody but this guy. And people say that I would have won had I not been a black man. So hold on. I'm giving you the winning formula with a flunking candidate. And Michael Dukakis flunked, but guess what? Guess who didn't flunk? Bill Clinton, because he studied Reverend. He used to study his videos. And he took all of our people anyway. So he had our playbook, and so did Obama. These folks won doing the Jesse Jackson playbook. Don't be fooled by that, okay? I'm not talking about my daddy. I'm talking about someone who came from the salt of the earth, from the people.
Yes.
Who won.
Mm-hmm.
Say, come on, let's start giving each other. And the reason you don't have these operatives like Tio on the streets is because Reverend is not at the Democratic Party advocating for them. That is what Obama ought to be doing. Michelle ought to be doing that right now. They should be. Yeah, because it's that kind of negotiating that gets these contracts out here. And let's be clear, Tio's got to eat.
Thank you.
He's got to stay on the air.
Yes.
I mean, that's not being mercenary. I mean, come on, that part. All these other people, you're sponsoring them and you're getting them on the air. And you know what? And Tio needs to hire some people, some street teams, so you can get some people out here, because that's what works. And people remember that. It's happening every place else.
Well, if she loses the election, it would be based on the fact she couldn't tap into that demographic. That's going to be the big game changer, so to speak, Santita, in my opinion, because I'm talking to the people on a regular basis. Then I'm part of a national. Say, what do they want?
What do they want?
They just want some respect, from the Democratic Party. A lot of, like I say, the Republicans are doing a good job of painting the picture that the Democrats have not delivered. They want some tangible type of evidence that the Democrats are going to do something for the ex-offender community, whatever it might be, because in my opinion, sometimes Democrats do not want to get down dirty sometimes. Donald Trump he got down dirty. He has. We have to just be honest about it. They did, okay? So what they want is respect, number one. Number two, they want opportunities on higher levels, okay? More than just a $20,000 forgivable loan. These guys are not like bamboo. You cannot bamboozle them like that. There shouldn't be no after. They don't want to be seen as an afterthought either. Like black men do not want to be seen as an afterthought. We have to put them up front, make them a priority, the same way they're prioritizing other type of ethnic groups throughout the United States, right? So that's what the people want. Santita,
let me read through a couple of these comments and you respond to them as we begin to close out. Representative Reynolds Chaparral said, neither party has delivered for black people. That's how we have to frame the truth. Robert Williams says Chicago Democrats haven't done anything of significance for black Chicago since Harold Washington. And Harold Washington had been pulled out of the establishment, and we pushed Harold. because he didn't even want to run that part.
Right.
Chicago, okay. So Andre said over half of my coworkers, this is my god brother, are voting for Trump because they feel that he speaks to the everyday blue collar worker needs. LaShawn says, as long as they are ignoring those on the ground, Kamala's campaign is going to lose those people. She is categorized as untouchable and out of touch with the people. Y'all, look, I'm just.
Well, that backs up what I'm saying, Santita.
That's right.
That's all.
I mean, and that's all I'm trying to say. All we're trying to do is offer up solutions, and because that's what Trump is doing. Remember, Trump is a master marketer. He understands people, and he goes to where they are. That's why, I mean, all this. When you talk to Don King and who came out of prison, who served his time, and Mike Tyson, who served his time, but before that he had always struggled. He has had a lot of Black friends, and he's been able to relate to them. How's he been able to relate to them? He talks their language. He is a street guy. He comes from Queens, y'all.
Tina, let me say this quickly, since if you don't mind.
Let me just say this.
I just want to say
because
something.
Going from Queens to Manhattan,
Right.
New York is very classist. The elite in New York never really accepted him, and that bothered him.
Yeah, quickly. Trump did something, Representative Reynolds, that as an African-American man, he was sitting in the front of a church on a pew there, and he pulled out his little bankroll that was folded up in his pocket. And that's what I do a lot of times when I go to church, right? I pull out my little bankroll and I say, I'm going to give 20 or 30, you know what I mean? And then we put the other little money back up. Something simple just like that. I can identify with that because I do that all the time at church. And when I try to hide my bankroll a little bit to try to penny pinch off it. I mean, it's a little bitty measure, but it's a reality for some of us as brothers. Dr. Tree said on your comments here that what Trump is doing, he's really appealing to the people that have been involved in mass incarceration. So we have to understand the prison industrial complex is still alive and kicking, and Trump is identifying with that demographic of people. So all the comments that you got right here are really pretty much in harmony with what I'm saying. That's all.
Well, no. Remember Jared Kushner, his father was sent to prison by Chris.
That's right.
They were having a family. They'd been after his family for a while. They were having a family dinner. What Chris Christie did was, and the family dinner was at his aunt's home, his father's sister's home. And her husband had been having a little fun out in the streets. Chris Christie, in the middle of the dinner, had a video of his indiscretion delivered to the family dinner. And then then he went,
wow.
Yeah, then he went to prison. Now that left Jared Kushner feeling some kind of way.
Yeah.
So while he's at Harvard, because then his father went to prison. While he's at Harvard, he's going to visit his daddy on the weekends. So they have another kind of appreciation. And I'm not making a case for them. I'm just telling you, you got Kamala Harris on the other side who put some people in prison. The thing is, she can come back from that because her job was to do that.
That's right.
And she can say, look, y'all, this was my job. When I got in there, it's just like being vice president. Oh, your positions have changed. Number one, I have access to information I didn't have access to when I was not vice president, even when I was senator with security clearance. I learned some other things, and you know what? I'm having to deal with some other political realities. I still want a clean environment. Can we figure out how we can do that while fracking? Because when I say no fracking, a whole lot of people lose jobs. That's a political reality I had to deal with. So, I mean, you can tell people, look, y'all, this is what I saw something else. People say all that they want to. Let me just put it right here. I ain't going to take this in a marriage. I ain't going to, in a relationship. I ain't going to. Then, your heart gets involved. Oh, wait a minute. We got children. As my parents said to me, you know what? My father said to me, wait. Your grandmother, Gertrude, your mother's mother is now my mama. I've known her since I was 20. Wait a minute. My mother said, well, all things, yeah, whatever. Helen Jackson is now my mother. I've known her since I was 17. We have built, both my parents said, we built a life.
Yeah.
And as Esther Thompson, God rest her soul, said, the knot you tie with your hands, you cannot untie with your tongue.
Mm,
Life is much more complex than that, everybody.
that's right.
Just stop. You see, when you get into different positions, you see different things. There are things you know now, Representative Reynolds, that you didn't know before you got into the legislature. Then Maxine Waters was teasing my brother last night about being bipartisan. She said, Jonathan, I tell Jonathan, get out of this office. I want you to meet some of my Republican friends. But well, as we talked, said he's dealing with different kinds of realities. Because he's trying to get things done. Much of my brother's district is farming community. They play country and western. I didn't say they don't play Shania Twain just outside of Chicago, Ron. They play Hank Williams and Patsy Cline. And you know that, T.O., this is where we live. They grow corn just outside of Chicago. And it's a different culture. So I'm just saying, maybe we just need to convene and get some people who support her, not her surrogates, because sometimes they can be a little too milquetoast. Get some people, let's have talk about this.
For sure.
Because there's a lot at stake here. But I tell you what, the good news is this: no matter what happens, we're gonna make it anyway.
That's right.
We're gonna make it anyway.
What does song say? We're gonna be all right.
We're gonna be all right. Because we're gonna fight.
That's
We're
right.
gonna be all right because we're gonna fight. Because no matter who gets in, we're gonna fight. So you got it, Representative Reynolds. You came up with it. We gonna be all right because we gonna fight.
And she got to hustle hard, Santita, out of Texas. There, Reynolds, one of the rappers, Ace Hood, had that song "Hustle Hard."
I know it. I know it.
You know what I'm talking about.
Well, and I don't, but that's all right. Now I learned something new. My brother Jonathan called me a square to my girlfriends last night. He said, "John, I'm so glad you take care of my square sister." So God knows. Here at 950 Radio, I love y'all, everybody. God bless.